Good morning, Year 4. Our maths learning this week, we are continuing to look at decimals, but we're moving into using hundredths. So for bronze, we are recognising hundredths. For silver and gold, we are comparing hundredths. And for platinum, we're starting to problem solve. So our anchor test then, I can recognise equivalent tenths and hundredths. So you need to fill in the gaps in these 8 questions to show our equivalent fractions. So pause the video and have a go, and then we'll go through the answers together. Okay then, so 1/10 is equivalent to 10 100ths, 20 100ths is equivalent to 2/10, 60 100ths is 6/10, 3/10 is 30 100ths, 9/10 is 90 100ths, 10/10 is 100 100ths, which you might have already also said is equivalent to 1 whole. 40 100ths is 4/10, and 80 100ths is 8/10. So if you've got those all correct, well done. Okay then, so moving into our lesson, have a look at these deans and what fraction do you think this represents? And also, is there any other way to show that fraction? So does it show any other fraction? So we know that each row is 1/10 of the whole shape, and we have 3 rows shaded. So the fraction shown is 3/10. But we also know that each single square is 100th of a whole shape. So we're also showing 30, because 30 squares are shaded, hundredths. And these fractions are equivalent. So we know this equivalent means equal. Let's have a look at this one then. What fraction does this represent? Okay, so we know that again we have shaded 3/10 of our shape, but we also know that this is 30 hundredths. Now we have 3 more hundredths here, so let's work in hundreds this time because we haven't got a full row made up here. So we're going to say that we've got 33 hundredths shaded. The fraction represented is 33 hundredths, but let's check it. What is the fraction made up of, and how can we partition it? So we know we've got 3/10, which we said is equal to 30 100ths, and we know we've also got 3 100ths left over. Well, 30 add 3 is 33 hundredths, so we were correct. Let's have a go at another one then. What fraction does this represent, and how could we partition it? So pause the video and have a little go independently, and then we'll discuss it together. Okay, so we can clearly see that we have 2/10 shaded because we have 2 whole rows and each row is 1/10 of the shape, and we have 1 100th shaded because we have 1 square by itself shaded out of 100. We also know that 2/10 is equivalent to 20 100ths. So now we have our parts, we can make our whole. We have 20, add 1, so we have 21 hundredths. So our answer would be 21 hundredths. So for bronze then, you are identifying the fractions below. So there may be 2 answers to some of them. So this one, for example, I can say I have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. So I know each row is worth 1/10, and I have 4 of them, so I'm showing 4/10. I also know that that's equivalent to 40 100ths. Another one then, identify the fraction below. Okay, so this time we have some hundredths. So let's work in hundredths for our answer. So we know that each one is worth 10 100ths. So 10, 20, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34 100ths. So for bronze then, you are identifying the fraction that is shown using the Deans. For silver then, we are moving into comparing numbers. So we're using our crocodiles, our greater than, less than or equals to sign. Okay, so I've already shown here as a model that I have a 1/10 and I have 800ths, but I can't currently compare them because they've got a different denominator. This denominator is 10 and this denominator is 100. So I need to make them have the same denominator so I can compare them. So I can't change this denominator, but I can change this one because I know that 1/10 is equal to 10 100ths. Okay, so now I've done that, I can now compare these numbers. I know that 10 is bigger than 8, so I can use my crocodile sign to say that this side is bigger than this side. Okay, another one then. So I need to first of all, if I'm comparing these fractions, I need to first of all show what the fractions are. So I know that this again is 1/10. And I know that the fraction to the right is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 100ths. Okay. Again, I can't compare them because the denominators are different, so I need to convert this to hundredths and show the equivalent fraction. Okay, so I know that 1/10 is equal to 10 100ths, and now I can compare them. I can clearly see that they are equivalent, so I need to use my equal sign. So for silver then, you are comparing the numbers that are shown on with the Deans, the fractions that are shown with the Deans. Okay, moving on to gold then, we are completing sequences. Now some of these sequences may be quite simple in that they move up step by step. So we know that the difference between 27 and 28, we are adding 1 each time. So we know quite simply that we will continue to add 1/100th to finish our sequence. So we've got 27/100ths, 28/100ths, 29, 30, 31 and 32/100ths. But sometimes it may be a little bit trickier because if you look here, we've got 52, 52/100ths, 51/100ths, then we've got 5/10ths, but we need to continue in our hundredths. So this fraction here, we need to convert it into hundredths to try and work out the pattern. And we know that 5/10ths is equivalent to 50 100ths. So now we've done that, we can clearly see that each time we are moving 1, but we aren't adding 1 this time, we are descending, we are taking away 1 from our fraction, taking away 1/100th. So we've got 50 100ths, so we know we'd continue down 49, 48 and 47. So your gold questions are here, which are independent, and they can be found on a PDF on the website as well, because I know this is a little bit blurry to read. Okay, for platinum then, finally, you are starting to look at reasoning and problem solving. So You have 2 tenths and 9 hundredths already. How many more tenths and hundredths do you need to make one whole? So we've got a Dean's here to help us. So first of all, we have 2 tenths and 9 hundredths already. So there's 1 tenth. There's 2 tenths, 9 hundredths. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hundredths. So we need to make one whole. So what have we got left? Okay, so how many more tenths and how many more hundredths? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows left. And I know that each row is worth a tenth. So I've got 7 tenths that I still need to get. And then here I have got 1 hundredth as well. And it has asked for your answer as a fraction. Okay, so we've worked that out as tenths and hundredths, but now we need to show that as one fraction. So remembering that 7 tenths is equivalent to 70 hundredths, we've got 70 plus 1 is 71 hundredths left that we need to find to make one whole. Okay, you are now ready to have a go at the Platinum Independent questions then. Please remember to send your work in to your teacher.